I'm Emma Mitchell, 29, and I never thought I'd be crying in a bathroom stall at my own sister's wedding. Just 30 minutes ago, I discovered that my carefully assigned seat was hidden behind a massive pillar where I couldn't see the ceremony or be seen by anyone. My sister Melissa had deliberately placed me there after I refused to dye my red hair brown for her aesthetic. When a handsome stranger named James took my hand and led me to his table, I had no idea this simple act of kindness would unravel decades of family secrets and change everything forever. If you've ever felt like the black sheep in your family, this story might resonate with you. Before I continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you enjoy family drama stories with unexpected twists, please hit that subscribe button to join our community. Trust me, what happened next at that wedding table will completely surprise you. Growing up with Melissa was like living in the shadow of perfection. My sister, 5 years my senior at 34, was everything our parents Diana and Robert Mitchell wanted in a daughter. Straight A student, homecoming queen, perfect brunette hair always styled just right, and the uncanny ability to charm every adult she encountered. Meanwhile, I was the awkward redhead with freckles who preferred sketching to socializing and never quite measured up. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the unofficial family motto directed at me. When Melissa made the volleyball team, I tried out too, but spent most games on the bench. When she was accepted to her dream college, my parents threw a massive party. When I got into art school 2 years later, I received a pat on the back and "That's nice, honey." The pattern was established early. Mom would prepare Melissa's favorite meals, remember her friends' names, and display her trophies prominently. Dad would brag about her accomplishments to anyone who would listen. I wasn't neglected exactly, just perpetually second best. One incident from our teenage years stands out vividly. My junior prom should have been magical. I'd saved for months from my part-time job to buy a beautiful emerald green dress that complemented my red hair. The night before prom, I hung it carefully in our shared bathroom while I showered. When I came out, I found the dress soaking wet. The sink faucet mysteriously left running. "It must have fallen," Melissa said with wide, innocent eyes. "I'm so sorry, Em." But I'd seen the slight curl of satisfaction on her lips. Mom immediately jumped to her defense. "It was an accident, Emma. Stop being dramatic." Dad simply sighed and gave me money to find another dress, but all the good ones were gone by then. I ended up in an ill-fitting black number from the clearance rack. In my prom photos, I look like I'm attending a funeral. College became my escape. I moved 3 states away and flourished in the graphic design program. For the first time, I wasn't Melissa's little sister, but just Emma, talented designer with the cool red hair. I made genuine friends who valued me. My portfolio won awards. I secured an excellent job at a design agency in Chicago after graduation and built a life I was proud of. My visits home became increasingly infrequent. Holidays were endured rather than enjoyed, always featuring the Melissa show. I'd perfected the art of the 3-day visit. Arrive Friday night, plaster on smiles through Saturday, make excuses to leave early Sunday. The relief I felt crossing the state line back to my real life was palpable. Then came the engagement announcement. Melissa had met Michael, a successful investment banker, and after a whirlwind romance, they were planning a wedding. Despite our history, I felt genuine happiness for her. Perhaps adulthood had matured us both, I thought optimistically. The first few wedding conversations seemed to support this hope. Melissa called me personally to ask me to be her maid of honor, saying, "Despite everything, you're my sister. I want you there beside me." I was touched and agreed immediately, booking time off work and offering to help with design elements for the wedding. That's when the subtle shift began. What started as occasional suggestions about my appearance for the wedding evolved into demands. First, it was, "Maybe wear your hair up so we look more uniform in photos." Then, "I think you should consider wearing contacts instead of glasses for the ceremony." Soon it became, "The makeup artist will need to add extra foundation to cover your freckles." Each request chipped away at my initial optimism. Mom constantly ran interference. "She just wants everything perfect, Emma. It's her special day." 3 months before the wedding, I was informed I wouldn't be in most of the bridal party photos despite being maid of honor. Your hair just doesn't work with the color scheme, Melissa explained casually over brunch. Mom agrees it's for the best. I sat stunned as they discussed me as if I weren't present. The familiar feeling of being erased within my own family returned full force. The final straw came 3 weeks before the wedding. A text from Melissa. I need you to dye your hair brown for the wedding. My colors are champagne and chocolate, and your red hair will clash in all the family photos. It's just temporary. Do this for me? When I gently refused, explaining I had major client presentations the following week and couldn't risk a hair color disaster, all hell broke loose. Melissa stopped speaking to me entirely. Mom sent passive-aggressive messages about selfishness and family duty. Even Dad, usually the peacemaker, suggested I just wear a nice hat to the ceremony. After days of silent treatment and mounting pressure, I made my decision. I would attend the wedding with my natural red hair, be supportive and loving, and hope that the day itself would heal this ridiculous rift. Surely at 34, my sister wouldn't let hair color ruin her wedding day or our relationship. I was wrong. The Bedford Vineyard looked like something from a fairy tale as I pulled into the parking lot on Melissa's wedding day. Rows of grapevines stretched across rolling hills, and the historic stone venue was draped with white flowers and champagne-colored ribbons. Under different circumstances, I would have immediately started sketching the scene. Instead, my stomach churned with anxiety. I hadn't spoken directly to Melissa or my parents in over 2 weeks. My text that morning, just parked, can't wait to see you, remained unread. Still, I grabbed my garment bag containing my maid of honor dress and headed toward the bridal suite, determined to mend fences. The suite was buzzing with activity bridesmaids, getting hairstyled, makeup artists working their magic, champagne flowing freely. When I entered, the conversation halted momentarily before resuming at a noticeably lower volume. Emma, we didn't think you'd make it, said bridesmaid Caitlin with an odd emphasis. The others exchanged glances I couldn't interpret. Where's Melissa? I asked, looking around. Your mother said you should wait outside, the wedding planner interjected, appearing at my elbow. Family photos are already finished. What? I'm family. I'm the maid of honor. The planner's expression shifted to discomfort. I'm just relaying the message. Melissa said you'd understand. I stepped back into the hallway, confusion mounting. Mom appeared a moment later, her eyes immediately going to my hair. You couldn't do this one thing for your sister, she said instead of hello. She's devastated, Emma. Mom, it's just hair. Can I talk to Melissa? She's busy with important wedding details, Mom replied coldly. Rebecca is handling the maid of honor duties now. The wedding coordinator has a list of tasks for you instead. Before I could protest, the coordinator reappeared with a clipboard. We need someone to direct the parking attendants, check on the catering delivery, and make sure the guest book table is properly set up. I stared in disbelief. Those aren't maid of honor duties, those are staff responsibilities. Mom's thin smile didn't reach her eyes. Consider yourself lucky to be included at all after your selfishness. For the next 2 hours, I was kept busy with menial tasks far from the wedding preparations. Each time I attempted to find Melissa or rejoin the bridal party, someone intercepted me with another urgent task. I complied, still hoping this childish punishment would end before the ceremony. With 30 minutes until the ceremony, guests began arriving. I hurried to find the bridal party, expecting to line up for the procession. Instead, the wedding planner handed me a program. The ceremony is about to begin. You should find your seat. But I'm supposed to be in the ceremony, I protested. The coordinator wouldn't meet my eyes. Melissa made some changes to the program. Your mother said you'd understand. I flipped through the program. My name was completely absent. Rebecca, Melissa's college roommate, was now listed as maid of honor. Fighting back tears, I approached the seating chart to find my reception table. After scanning the elegant calligraphy multiple times without finding my name, I asked a nearby attendant. Her face flushed as she pulled out a separate note card. Miss Mitchell? You're at table 19. She hesitated before adding, it's near the kitchen. Table 19 wasn't on the main seating chart because it wasn't a table at all. It was a single chair placed behind a massive stone pillar in the far corner of the reception hall. From this position, the ceremony would be completely obscured. During the reception, I would see only the pillar and a sliver of the dance floor if I leaned far to the right. "There must be some mistake," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The bride was very specific about this arrangement. As the enormity of the humiliation hit me, I heard familiar voices. Turning, I saw two bridesmaids whispering by the restrooms. "Melissa's been planning this for weeks," one said. "Ever since Emma refused to dye her hair. Isn't it a bit extreme?" the other asked. "Melissa said she's tired of Emma stealing attention with that hair. This way, she'll be invisible in all the reception photos, too." I slipped into the bathroom before they could see me, locked myself in a stall, and finally let the tears flow. This wasn't about wedding aesthetics. My own sister had deliberately set out to humiliate me, to make me invisible on her wedding day. And my parents had allowed it. Through the bathroom door, I heard the music starting, signaling guests to take their seats. I had a decision to make. I could leave now, drive back to Chicago, and finally cut ties with my toxic family. Or I could dry my tears, sit in my assigned punishment seat, and prove I was bigger than their petty games. As I washed my face and reapplied my makeup, I made my choice. I wouldn't give Melissa the satisfaction of driving me away. I'd sit behind that pillar with perfect posture and a pleasant smile. Later, I'd reassess what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with my family moving forward. But when I emerged from the bathroom and saw the actual chair behind its massive pillar, my resolve wavered. The calculated cruelty of the seating arrangement was breathtaking. From this spot, I would see nothing, and no one would see me. It was as if Melissa wanted to erase my very existence on her perfect day. The ceremony began. Violin music swelled as the bridal party processed down the aisle. Guests oohed and ahed, and I sat alone behind a pillar, feeling more isolated than I ever had in my life. I've never been so tempted to just get up and leave. If I hadn't gone to the bathroom when I did, if I hadn't overheard those bridesmaids, I might never have known just how deliberately I was being excluded. But now, I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding or an oversight. This was intentional cruelty from my own flesh and blood. After watching shadows move across my pillar for 20 minutes while the ceremony happened beyond my view, I decided I needed a drink. The ceremony was clearly winding down based on the swelling music and collective awes from the audience. I could slip to the bar and back before anyone noticed I'd abandoned my punishment corner. The bartender gave me a sympathetic look as I ordered a double whiskey neat. "Rough day?" "You could say that," I replied, taking a generous sip. "That's a serious drink for a wedding," said a deep voice beside me. I turned to see a tall man with kind eyes and a slightly crooked smile. He wore a well-fitted suit that suggested comfort with formal occasions, but his slightly loosened tie hinted at a relaxed attitude toward their conventions. "Serious occasions call for serious drinks," I responded, not particularly interested in small talk. "Fair enough," he said, ordering a whiskey for himself. "I'm James Kennedy, distant cousin of the groom, and you must be the famous Emma." I nearly choked on my drink. "Famous?" He leaned against the bar. "The mysterious sister of the bride with the apparently controversial red hair." I overheard some bridesmaids talking. I felt my face flush. "Great. So everyone knows I've been banished." "Not everyone. Just those of us with good hearing and nothing better to do than eavesdrop at weddings." His smile was warm, lacking the pity I dreaded. "For what it's worth, your hair is beautiful. Definitely not worth hiding behind architecture." Despite myself, I laughed. "Are you always this direct with strangers?" "Only the ones who look like they could use an ally." He raised his glass. "To outcasts and misfits." I clinked my glass against his. "You don't look much like an outcast. Appearances can be deceiving. I'm the family divorce statistics representative. First and hopefully last Kennedy to end a marriage in generations. Makes for awkward conversation at the country club." "I'm sorry," I said automatically. He shrugged. "Don't be. Best decision I ever made. Just not popular with the family elders." He nodded toward the reception hall. "Should we head back? I believe they're about to introduce the bridal party." As we walked, he asked, "Where are you sitting?" "I'm at the random family members we had to invite table near the back." "I'm behind that pillar," I pointed to my isolated chair. Apparently red hair clashes with champagne and chocolate. James stopped walking and stared at the lone chair. You're joking. Wish I were. His eyebrows drew together. That's not just petty. That's cruel. The simple acknowledgement of what my family had done nearly broke my composure. All day, I'd been gaslit into believing I was overreacting, that I deserved this treatment for not conforming to Melissa's demands. Come sit with me, James said decisively. My table's full of fellow black sheep. We'd love to have you. I hesitated, looking at my designated chair. I don't want to cause more drama. The drama's already happened, James said gently. This is just you choosing not to accept mistreatment. When I still hesitated, he held out his hand. Trust me, no one should sit alone at a wedding. Something in his gesture so simple yet so kind broke through my defenses. I placed my hand in his and allowed him to lead me across the reception hall to a table in the corner opposite my pillar. I felt eyes on us as we walked. My mother's horrified expression when she spotted me abandoning my assigned seat was almost comical. Melissa, at the head table, did a double take and immediately started texting furiously. My phone buzzed in my clutch, but I ignored it. James's table was indeed a collection of misfits. There was Aunt Martha, who'd scandalized the family by becoming a professional poker player at 60. Cousin Derek, who'd chosen trade school over college despite family pressure. And James's brother Thomas with his husband Scott, whose relationship wasn't acknowledged on the family tree. Everyone, this is Emma, sister of the bride, James introduced. She's been officially adopted by the misfit table. Welcome to the island of broken toys, Martha said with a wink, pulling out a chair for me. We have more fun anyway. For the first time that day, I found myself relaxing. The conversation flowed easily, full of witty observations about wedding traditions and gentle jokes about family dynamics. Nobody mentioned my hair or questioned why I wasn't with the bridal party. I was simply accepted. When my phone kept buzzing with texts, I finally turned it off. Whatever crisis my absence from the pillar was causing could wait. During dinner, James and I fell into easy conversation. He was a professional photographer who specialized in documenting family histories and important life moments. There's something powerful about capturing the truth of family relationships, he explained. Not just the posed, smiling moments, but the real connections. Or sometimes, the real disconnections. That's surprisingly philosophical for wedding photography, I noted. I don't just do weddings. I do long-form documentary projects. Families over time, with all their complexities. His expression grew serious. I've seen enough toxic family dynamics to recognize when someone's being mistreated. Is it that obvious? I asked quietly. To someone looking for it, yes. He considered me for a moment. Can I ask a personal question? When did you become the family scapegoat? The directness of his question startled me. What makes you think I am? Professional observation. The isolated seating. The way your mother looked at you like you were ruining everything by simply existing in the wrong spot. The relief on your face when you were welcomed at this table. He shrugged. Classic family scapegoat indicators. I stared at my plate. Since birth, I guess. I was never quite what they wanted. And what did they want? Another Melissa. The words came out before I could stop them. James nodded as if I'd confirmed something. You know, the healthiest thing I ever did was stop trying to be what my family wanted and figure out who I actually am. Is that what led to your divorce? Partly. He twirled his wine glass thoughtfully. I married who they expected me to marry, not who was right for me. Classic people-pleaser mistake. I stopped people-pleasing years ago, I said. That's probably why I'm behind a pillar. He laughed. Touché. But look where not sitting there got you. He gestured around the table where Martha was telling a risque joke to Derek's obvious delight. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the one you're born into. We danced during the reception, James proving to be surprisingly graceful. When a slow song came on, he hesitated before offering his hand again. As we swayed to the music, I realized I was having fun, actual fun at my sister's wedding, despite everything. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For rescuing me from pillar purgatory. For making this day bearable. His eyes crinkled when he smiled. The pleasure has been entirely mine, Emma Mitchell. By the time we returned to the table, I'd almost forgotten about the family drama. That's when reality came crashing back. Emma. My mother's voice cut through the pleasant conversation at our table. She stood rigidly beside me, her smile fixed and false. "May I speak with you?" The table fell silent. James gave my arm a reassuring touch as I stood to follow her to a quiet corner. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed once we were alone. "Your sister specifically arranged the seating." "You mean she deliberately hid me behind a pillar?" I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Did you really expect me to sit there all night? It's her wedding day. You're making this about yourself. As usual." "As usual?" I felt something snap inside me. Years of swallowed responses and accepted blame bubbled to the surface. How was refusing to be literally hidden making things about me? "You've always been difficult. Always had to stand out with that hair and those artistic tendencies." "My hair is natural, Mom. I was born this way." "Well, it's always been inconvenient," she said dismissively. Before I could respond, Melissa appeared beside her, cheeks flushed with champagne and righteous indignation. "You couldn't just do what you were told for once, could you? You had to make a scene." "I'm sitting quietly at a table, Melissa. How is that making a scene? You were supposed to stay where I put you." Her voice rose, drawing attention from nearby guests. "Behind a pillar where no one could see me?" "Exactly." She stepped closer, her perfectly made-up face contorted with anger. "For once in your life, you weren't supposed to be seen." The raw honesty of her statement stunned me into silence. James appeared at my side, his presence steady and grounding. "I think everyone needs to take a breath," he suggested calmly. "And who are you?" Melissa demanded. "James Kennedy, cousin of your new husband. Just trying to defuse the situation." "There is no situation," my mother insisted. "Emma is just returning to her assigned seat. Aren't you, Emma?" I looked between them, these women who shared my blood but seemed to fundamentally dislike who I was. "No, actually, I'm not." "Excuse me?" Mom's voice rose dangerously. "I will not sit behind a pillar because my sister is embarrassed by me. I've done nothing wrong." "You've embarrassed me my entire life," Melissa burst out, loud enough that a circle of silence spread around us. "Always having to be different. Always drawing attention away from me with your weird art and your flashy hair." "Melissa, lower your voice," Mom urged, suddenly aware of the audience. "No, let's hear this," I said, a strange calm settling over me. "How exactly have I embarrassed you?" "You exist," she spat. "Do you know what it's like having a sister who looks nothing like the rest of the family? Who acts nothing like us? Every time you visited for holidays, my friends would ask if you were adopted. That sounds like a problem with your friends. Not me. You never tried to fit in. You never tried to be part of this family." "I tried for 29 years, I replied quietly. "I was just never wanted." "Don't be so dramatic," Mom interjected. "Of course we wanted you." An unexpected voice joined the conversation. "Diana, that's enough." My father had approached without any of us noticing. His face was grave, his usual peacekeeper smile absent. "Robert, stay out of this," Mom warned. "I've stayed out of it for too long." He turned to me. "Emma, you don't deserve this treatment." "I'm sorry I let it go this far." Melissa stared at him in shock. "Dad, you can't be serious. She's ruining my wedding." "You ruined it yourself when you decided to humiliate your sister," he said firmly. "That chair behind the pillar? That was cruel, Melissa. I should have said something when I saw the seating chart." She refused to dye her hair. Melissa was nearly shouting now. "It's hair," Dad said wearily. "It's just hair." "It's never been just about the hair," I said quietly, realization dawning. "Has it, Melissa?" My sister's eyes narrowed. "You've always been the odd one out. The one who doesn't belong." "Melissa, stop it right now," Mom snapped, suddenly looking afraid. "Why should I?" "She needs to hear the truth for once." James placed a supportive hand on my back but remained silent, allowing me to handle the confrontation. "What truth?" I asked, though something cold was forming in my stomach. Mom stepped between us. "This is neither the time nor place. Let's all calm down and discuss this later." "There's nothing to discuss," Melissa said with malicious satisfaction. "Emma's not really one of us. She never has been. What is that supposed to mean? I demanded. Dad's face had gone pale. Melissa, that's enough. Is it? Haven't you ever wondered why you're the only redhead in a family of brunettes, Emma? Why you look nothing like Dad or me? Genetics are complicated, I replied automatically. But my mind was racing, connecting dots I'd never allowed myself to see before. Not that complicated, Melissa smirked. Ask Daddy why you have red hair when we're all brunettes. Mom grabbed her arm. Melissa! Not here! But the damage was done. I turned to my father, whose expression confirmed what Melissa was implying before he even spoke. I've always considered you my daughter. Emma, he said quietly. Always. The implication hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't biologically his daughter. The room seemed to tilt and blur around me. I think this conversation needs to happen in private, James said firmly, his hand steady on my back. Mom nodded quickly. Absolutely. After the wedding, Emma, return to your seat and we'll discuss this later. By her seat, you mean the chair behind the pillar where no one can see her? James asked, his voice deceptively pleasant. The one where she's symbolically erased from the family? That seat? Mom flushed. This is a family matter. Yes, it is. I found my voice again. But I'm apparently not really family, am I? Mike, Melissa's new husband, appeared and gently took her arm. Babe, they're waiting for us to cut the cake. Everything okay here? Fine, Melissa replied, her anger switching to a honeyed smile with disturbing speed. Emma was just leaving. Actually, I said calmly, I'm staying right here, with people who actually want me around. Mike looked confused but nodded. Okay then. Melissa. Cake? As they walked away, Mom leaned close to whisper, This isn't over. Don't make another scene. Dad lingered a moment longer. Emma, I'm sorry. We should have told you years ago. Yes, you should have, I agreed, fighting to keep my voice steady. We'll talk later. As my parents followed Melissa and Mike toward the cake table, I stood frozen, processing the bombshell that had just been dropped. James remained beside me, silent but present. You okay? He finally asked. I have no idea, I answered honestly. Did that just happen? It did. He hesitated. Do you want to leave? I considered it for a moment, then straightened my shoulders. No. I want answers. But first, I want another drink and possibly a large slice of overpriced wedding cake. James smiled. That's the spirit. As we walked back to the table, I felt strangely liberated. The worst had happened. I'd been publicly rejected by my family and learned I might not even be who I thought I was, but I was still standing. And for the first time, I wasn't alone in facing my family's dysfunction. I wonder how many of you have experienced family secrets coming to light at the worst possible moments. Sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. If you're connecting with this story so far, please hit the like button. The journey to finding out who I really am was just beginning, and what happened next changed everything. The reception continued around us in a blur of cake cutting, toasts, and first dances. I went through the motions, clapping at appropriate moments while my mind raced with questions. Was I really not my father's biological daughter? Who was my actual father? Had everyone known but me? During a particularly saccharine father-daughter dance between Dad and Melissa, James leaned close. You look like you're planning a heist or a homicide. Just trying to process, I replied. I feel like my entire life has been a lie. Want to do some digging? He asked. I have my laptop in the car we could take a break from. He gestured at the dance floor. All this. The possibility of immediate answers was too tempting to resist. Yes? Please. We slipped out to the parking lot, away from the reception's noise and scrutiny. James retrieved his laptop from a sensible Volvo, and we sat in the car with the doors open to catch the evening breeze. Where should we start? He asked, powering up the computer. Social media, I guess? I want to see family photos with fresh eyes. We spent the next half hour scrolling through my family's social media accounts. James created a folder, saving photos for comparison. The visual evidence was startling once I knew to look for it. In every family photo, I stood out like a wildflower in a manicured garden, not just my red hair, But my facial structure, the shape of my nose, even my build was different from my parents and Melissa. I can't believe I never saw it, I murmured, staring at a particularly obvious example, a beach photo, where my pale, freckled complexion contrasted sharply with my family's olive tones. We often don't see what we're not looking for, James replied. Who might know more about this? Katie, I said immediately. My childhood best friend. She might know something. Her mom and mine were close. I called Katie, who answered on the third ring. Emma, aren't you at Melissa's wedding? I am. Sort of. I need to ask you something important. Did you ever hear rumors about me not being my dad's biological daughter? The lengthy pause was answer enough. Katie, please. I just found out at the wedding. I need the truth. She sighed. There were rumors. Your mom had a boyfriend before your dad, in college. When she got pregnant with you, there was question about paternity. But your parents stayed together, so everyone assumed it was sorted out. Do you know the boyfriend's name? Another pause. Alex something. Thompson, I think? My mom mentioned once that he had the same red hair as you. My heart raced. Do you know what happened to him? No idea. But Emma, he tried to contact you a few years ago. What? When? When you turned 25. He reached out to you on social media. I remember because you showed me the message and thought it was spam. Some guy claiming to be an old friend of your mom's who wanted to connect. You blocked him. The memory surfaced hazily. A message request I'd dismissed as yet another creepy internet stranger. I need to find those messages. James and I spent the next 20 minutes digging through my archived messages. Finally, we found a message request from 4 years ago. Emma, you don't know me, but I'm an old friend of your mother's from college. We've never met, but I've followed your accomplishments from afar. I'd very much like to connect with you if you're open to it. Alex Thompson. There was a profile picture, a professional-looking man in his 50s with graying red hair and a familiar smile. My smile. My stomach dropped. That's him, I whispered. That's my biological father. James squeezed my hand gently. Do you want to try finding him now? With his investigative skills and my design industry connections, we managed to locate Alex Thompson within an hour. He was a creative director at an advertising agency in Minneapolis, just 2 hours from Chicago. His agency website showed a distinguished man with my coloring, my smile, and even my tendency to gesture with his hands while speaking, evident in a video interview on the site. He tried to find me, I said, staring at his contact information. And I ignored him. You didn't know, James reminded me. Do you think he's still interested in connecting? It's been 4 years. James considered this. If he's truly your biological father who's been denied a relationship with you, I doubt his interest has waned. The implications of everything I was discovering washed over me. My entire identity was built on a foundation of lies. The family dynamics that had shaped me feeling like an outsider, being treated differently than Melissa, suddenly made perfect sense. What do I do now? I asked. More to myself than to James. What do you want to do? I want the truth. All of it. I took a deep breath. But I'm not sure I'm ready to confront my parents tonight or contact Alex immediately. I need to process. That's completely reasonable, James assured me. Tonight's already been overwhelming enough. I looked back toward the reception hall. Should we go back in? Only if you want to. No one would blame you for leaving. I considered the options. I think I want to go back, but not to cause drama. Just to reclaim some normalcy and maybe even have a good time despite everything. Is that weird? James smiled. Not at all. I'm an excellent reception date, by the way. I've been told my electric slide is quite impressive. True to his word, James proved to be the perfect companion for the remainder of the evening. We danced, talked with his table of misfits, and even enjoyed the cake. I observed my family from a new perspective, noting how Dad kept glancing at me with concern while Mom carefully avoided eye contact. When Melissa threw her bouquet, I deliberately stepped back, but it hit a chandelier and bounced directly into my unsuspecting hands. The irony wasn't lost on me, nor was Melissa's sour expression. For once, though, I didn't feel hurt by her reaction. I just felt distant, as if watching a stranger's displeasure rather than my sister's. As the reception wound down, James walked me to my car. "What will you do now?" "Go back to my hotel. Process everything. Then figure out how to approach my parents and possibly contact Alex." I hesitated. "Thank you for everything today. You turned what could have been the worst day of my life into something meaningful." "I'm glad I could help." He shuffled slightly, suddenly awkward after hours of easy companionship. "Would it be all right if I called you? Not about the family drama, just to talk?" I smiled. "I'd like that." We exchanged numbers, and as I drove back to my hotel, I realized that despite the earth-shattering revelations, I felt strangely optimistic. The truth, however painful, was finally coming to light, and somehow I wasn't facing it alone. A week after the wedding, I found myself sitting in my childhood living room, heart pounding as I waited for my parents to join me. The drive from Chicago had given me plenty of time to organize my thoughts and questions. James had offered to accompany me and wait outside for moral support. His car was parked down the street, his presence a comforting backup if things went sideways. We'd spoken daily since the wedding, his calm perspective helping me prepare for this confrontation. My parents entered the living room together, looking tense. Mom immediately launched into wedding talk. "Melissa and Mike are enjoying their honeymoon in Bali. The photographer sent preview images, and they look lovely. Though of course, you're not in many." "I didn't come to talk about the wedding," I interrupted. "I came to talk about Alex Thompson." The name landed like a bomb in the quiet living room. Dad's face paled, while Mom's expression hardened into defensive lines. "Where did you hear that name?" she demanded. "Does it matter? What matters is, you've lied to me my entire life. Is he my biological father?" Dad sat heavily in his armchair. "Emma, we should have told you years ago." "I'm sorry we didn't." "Robert," Mom snapped. "We agreed to discuss this together." "No, Diana, I'm done with the secrets." He looked directly at me. "Yes, Alex Thompson is your biological father. Your mother and I were briefly separated during college. She reconnected with her ex-boyfriend. When we got back together, she was already pregnant with you. You knew. All this time, you knew I wasn't biologically yours?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I knew. But Emma, you have always been my daughter in every way that matters. From the moment I held you, I loved you as my own. Then why was I always treated differently than Melissa? Why was I always the outsider?" Dad looked genuinely pained. "I never meant to make you feel that way." "You didn't," I acknowledged. "That was mostly Mom and Melissa." Mom bristled. "That's unfair. I raised you both equally." "No, you didn't. And now I understand why. You resented me because I reminded you of him." "You don't understand anything," she said dismissively, but her eyes flickered away, confirming my suspicion. "Then explain it to me. Why keep this secret? Why let me believe I was just the defective Mitchell when I wasn't a Mitchell at all?" "We made a decision we thought was best for the family," Mom replied, stiffly. "For stability." "Your stability, you mean, not mine." "Did Alex know about me?" My parents exchanged glances. Dad nodded reluctantly. "He found out when you were about 2. He wanted involvement." "And you refused?" "He wasn't in a position to be a father," Mom interjected. "He was still finishing college, starting his career. It would have only confused you to have him drifting in and out of your life." "That wasn't your decision to make alone," I said, anger rising. "He had rights. I had rights." "We had a stable home," Mom countered. "Robert was willing to raise you as his own. Why complicate that with shared custody and explanations you were too young to understand?" "And when I wasn't too young anymore? When I was a teenager? An adult? Why continue the lie then?" Neither answered immediately. Finally, Dad spoke. "By then, it had been the reality for so long. We worried about hurting you. And then Alex tried to contact you directly when you turned 18. "What?" "Katie mentioned something when you were 25, but he tried earlier?" Dad nodded. "He'd been following your life from a distance. School achievements, that art prize you won in high school. When you turned 18, he sent a letter. I never received any letter." Mom's gaze dropped to her lap. "I intercepted it. And the ones after that?" "You had no right," I said. my voice shaking with anger. I had every right to protect my family. He threatened to tell you everything, to disrupt our lives after years of absence. He wasn't absent by choice. You kept him away. I took a deep breath, trying to stay focused. What happened when I turned 25? I know he messaged me online. He'd become successful by then, Dad explained. A creative director. Ironically, in the same field you'd chosen. He threatened legal action if we didn't tell you the truth. So you threatened him back, I guessed. Mom's chin lifted defiantly. Our lawyer made it clear that pursuing this would be costly and embarrassing for everyone involved. For you, you mean? I shook my head in disbelief. So, all these years, I've felt like an outsider in my own family because I literally was one. And you let me believe that was my fault somehow. That's not true, Dad protested. Isn't it? You stood by while Mom and Melissa treated me like an inconvenience. The family embarrassment. The mistake. Before either could respond, the front door opened. Melissa walked in, stopping short when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "Having a long overdue family discussion. Shouldn't you be in Bali?" Food poisoning cut the trip short. She looked between our parents. "What's going on?" "Emma knows about Alex," Dad said quietly. Melissa's surprise seemed genuine. "You told her? You knew too?" I asked. Another betrayal, landing like a physical blow. "I found out when I was 16, she admitted, setting down her purse. "I overheard Mom and Dad arguing about it. And you've used it against me ever since," I realized. "All those comments about me not belonging, not being a real Mitchell. You knew exactly what you were doing." For once, Melissa had the grace to look ashamed. "I was jealous, okay? You were always so different. So special. Everyone always commented on your beautiful red hair, your creativity. Then I found out you weren't even Dad's real daughter, and it made sense why you got special treatment." "Special treatment?" I laughed incredulously. "Are you delusional? Mom has always favored you in every possible way. I was the afterthought, the obligation. That's how you chose to see it," Melissa retorted. "Poor Emma. Always the victim." "Melissa, enough," Dad said sharply. "You deliberately humiliated your sister at your wedding. That was cruel and unnecessary. She refused to dye her hair. That garish red ruined all the photos." "It's not just hair," I said quietly. "It's the only connection I had to my biological father, though I didn't know it. No wonder you both hated it so much." I turned to Mom. "It reminded you of your mistake, the affair that nearly ended your marriage." Mom flinched. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Because from where I'm standing, you cheated on Dad, got pregnant, and have punished me for existing ever since." The room fell silent. Dad was the first to speak. "It wasn't that simple, Emma. Your mother and I were separated. She reconnected with Alex, her college boyfriend. When we reconciled, she was already pregnant. We made the decision together to raise you as mine. But somewhere along the way," he trailed off. "Somewhere along the way, the lie became more important than me. I finished for him." Dad's eyes filled with tears. "I failed you. I should have insisted we tell you the truth years ago. I should have stood up for you more with your mother and sister. I'm so sorry, Emma." His sincerity touched me. Despite everything, I believed he'd loved me as best he could. "I want to know everything," I said firmly. "No more lies. How can I contact Alex? Does he still want to meet me?" "As far as I know, yes," Dad replied. "He's never stopped trying to connect with you." Mom stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. We're your family, Emma. Not some stranger who contributed DNA." "You made him a stranger," I countered. "That was your choice, not mine. And after what I've learned today, I'm not sure you and Melissa are the family I want in my life moving forward." "You can't be serious," Melissa scoffed. "Deadly serious. I'm setting boundaries. I'll work on forgiving Dad because he's at least showing remorse. But you two?" I shook my head. "I need time and space to figure out what kind of relationship, if any, I want with you." Mom's face hardened. "You're being dramatic. Again?" "No, I'm finally standing up for myself. I deserve better than how you've treated me." I stood. emotionally exhausted but strangely lighter. "Dad, please send me Alex's contact information. I want to meet him." "I will," he promised, ignoring Mom's glare. As I walked toward the door, Melissa called after me. "So you're choosing a stranger over your family?" Typical selfish Emma. I turned back one last time. I'm choosing truth over lies. And I'm choosing to surround myself with people who actually value me. Something you might want to consider in your own life, Melissa, before you end up alone with just your bitterness for company. Outside, James was waiting in his car as promised. His concerned expression softened when he saw me. "How did it go?" "About as well as could be expected," I replied, sliding into the passenger seat. "But I got what I came for. Dad's going to send me Alex's contact information." "What now?" I looked back at the house that had never truly felt like home. Now I find my biological father, and I figure out what family really means to me. James nodded, starting the car. "Whatever you decide, you don't have to do it alone." His simple statement of support meant more than he could know. For the first time in my life, I was taking control of my story, seeking truth instead of acceptance. And somehow, against all odds, I'd found someone who valued me exactly as I was. The email to Alex Thompson sat in my drafts folder for 3 days. I wrote and rewrote it dozens of times, never quite finding the right words to introduce myself to my biological father. How do you begin such a momentous conversation? "Hello, I'm the daughter you never got to know. Sorry I ignored your previous attempts to contact me." James, who'd become my steadfast support through this emotional journey, finally offered practical advice during one of our nightly phone calls. "You're overthinking this," he said gently. "He's been waiting to hear from you for decades. Just be honest. What if he's moved on? What if he doesn't want to meet me anymore? Emma, he's tried to contact you repeatedly for years. I think it's safe to say he's interested." Drawing courage from James's confidence, I finally sent a simple message. "Dear Alex, my name is Emma Mitchell. I recently discovered you're my biological father. I'd like to meet you, if you're still open to it. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to reach out. I only just learned the truth, Emma." His response came within hours. "Emma, I can't express what it means to receive your message. I've waited for this day since you were born. I would be honored to meet you, whenever and wherever you're comfortable. I live in Minneapolis now, but I'll travel anywhere. Just name the time and place. With so much hope, Alex." We arranged to meet the following weekend at a quiet cafe halfway between Chicago and Minneapolis. James offered to drive me, sensing my nervousness. "I can wait in the car if you want privacy," he suggested as we neared our destination. "Actually, I'd feel better if you came in," I admitted. "Just for the initial meeting. Is that weird?" "Not at all. I'll be your moral support buffer." The cafe was nearly empty when we arrived. I spotted him immediately, a tall man with graying red hair that had once matched mine exactly. He was scanning each new customer anxiously, and when his eyes found me, recognition was instantaneous. He stood, knocking his chair slightly in his haste. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the room. It was like looking in a mirror that reflected a future male version of myself. We had the same eyes, the same smile, even the same way of standing. Genetics were undeniable. "Emma," he said, voice thick with emotion as I approached. "You look so much like my mother." "Hello, Alex," I managed, suddenly shy. We both hesitated, uncertain of protocol. A handshake seemed too formal, a hug too presumptuous. Finally, he extended his hand, and when I took it, he covered it with his other hand, a gesture that somehow acknowledged the significance of the moment without overstepping. James discreetly took a seat at a nearby table, close enough to be supportive but far enough to give us privacy. "I've imagined this meeting so many times," Alex said once we were seated. "I never quite knew what I'd say when it finally happened." "I'm still processing everything," I admitted. 2 weeks ago, I thought I knew who I was and where I came from. I wanted to be part of your life," he said earnestly. "From the moment I learned about you." "When was that?" "My parents' stories have been inconsistent." Alex sighed. "I dated your mother in college for nearly 2 years. When she and Robert separated briefly, we reconnected. When she went back to him, I respected her decision, not knowing she was pregnant. I only found out when you were about 18 months old. I ran into an old mutual friend who congratulated me on having a daughter. What did you do? I contacted Diana immediately. She confirmed you were mine, but said she and Robert had decided to raise you as a Mitchell. I wanted to be involved, to at least know you, but they were adamant that it would only confuse you. His hands tightened around his coffee cup. I consulted a lawyer, but in those days, with them being married and stable, my chances weren't good. The lawyer advised me to wait until you were older. So you just gave up? I couldn't keep the accusation from my voice. Never, he said firmly. I moved to their town to be nearby, though I kept my distance as they requested. I attended your school plays from the back row. I saw your artwork displayed in the community center. I watched you grow up from afar. The thought of him being present yet unknown during my childhood was both comforting and heartbreaking. When you turned 18, I sent letters. When those went unanswered, I assumed you'd been told about me and weren't interested. Pain flickered across his face. I tried again when you were 25, through social media. When that message was blocked, I nearly gave up, but I couldn't. Not completely. I never received your letters, I told him. My mother intercepted them. And I thought your message was spam. I had no idea who you were. Relief washed over his features. I always hoped there was an explanation. That you hadn't simply rejected me. I would have wanted to know you, I said honestly. I always felt like an outsider in my family. Now I understand why. Alex opened a well-worn messenger bag and pulled out a small box. I've kept this for you, for when we finally met. Inside was a collection of birthday cards, 29 inches total, one for every year of my life. Each was carefully dated, some containing small notes about milestones he'd observed from a distance. The early ones had little gifts tucked in a tiny silver bracelet for my 5th birthday, a watercolor set for my 10th, a gift card to an art supply store for my 16th. You remembered every birthday, I whispered, tears threatening. Of course, you're my daughter. He hesitated. I hope that doesn't sound presumptuous. It doesn't. I studied him, noting our similar mannerisms. Did you know I became a graphic designer? He smiled proudly. I did. When I saw your name in a design magazine 3 years ago, I nearly burst with pride. I'm a creative director myself. At Thompson Creative, I looked you up. The conversation flowed surprisingly easily after that. We discovered shared tastes in music, similar creative processes, and even the same dislike of cilantro. Nature versus nurture played out before us in fascinating ways, so many similarities, despite never having known each other. I'm married, Alex mentioned eventually. Lisa and I have been together 20 years. We have 2 children, your half-siblings. Ethan is 19 and Abby is 17. He pulled out his phone to show me photos. They know about you. They've always known they have an older sister. I studied the smiling teenagers in the photos. Ethan had the same red hair, while Abby was brunette like Alex's wife. Somewhere in Minnesota was a family that shared my blood, who had known about me while I remained ignorant of their existence. Would you like to meet them? Alex asked hesitantly. Only if you're comfortable, of course. No pressure. I think I would. I surprised myself with the answer. Alex's eyes lit up. They'd be thrilled. Especially Lisa, she's been urging me to keep trying to connect with you for years. She doesn't mind? About your having a daughter from before? Mind? She's been your biggest advocate. She was the one who convinced me to try contacting you again when you turned 25. His expression softened. She's an amazing woman. I think you'd like her. We talked for hours, James occasionally checking in with a glance to see if I was okay. By the time we finally prepared to leave, I felt like I'd begun to know the man whose DNA I carried, not enough to call him Dad, but enough to want more time together. I'd like to introduce you to James, I said as we stood to leave. He's been incredibly supportive through all of this. James joined us, shaking Alex's hand warmly. It's good to meet you, sir. Just Alex, please. He looked between us with perceptive eyes. How long have you two been together? Oh, we're not, I began. We're just James, said simultaneously. Alex smiled knowingly. My mistake, though we both denied it, Something had indeed been developing between James and me over the past 2 weeks. Our daily calls had become the highlight of my evenings, and his steady presence during this emotional roller coaster had revealed a connection neither of us had anticipated. Over the next few months, my relationship with Alex and his family blossomed. I visited Minneapolis several times, getting to know Lisa, Ethan, and Abby. They welcomed me with an openness that stood in stark contrast to the Mitchell family dynamics I'd grown up with. My relationship with my parents remained complicated. Dad made genuine efforts to rebuild our relationship, meeting me for lunch when I visited town and listening as I processed my feelings about the decades of deception. He even expressed interest in meeting Alex, a suggestion that would have been unthinkable months earlier. Mom remained defensive, unable to acknowledge how her actions had hurt me. Melissa oscillated between half-hearted attempts at reconciliation and jealous sniping about my new family. I maintained polite distance from both, focusing on my own healing rather than their discomfort with the truth. Meanwhile, James had become more than just a supportive friend. Our relationship evolved naturally, built on mutual respect and genuine understanding. He encouraged me to work through my family trauma in therapy, never rushing me or minimizing my complex emotions. "You're rebuilding your entire concept of family," he observed one evening as we walked along Chicago's lakefront. "That takes time." "I've been thinking about family a lot lately," I admitted. "How it's not just about DNA or legal ties. What is it about then?" "Choice, I think. The people who choose to love you, support you, see you for who you really are." I glanced at him. "Like you did at the wedding. You could have just pitied the girl behind the pillar, but you chose to take my hand instead." He smiled, taking my hand again. "Best decision I ever made." By the time fall arrived, I'd established a new normal: regular video calls with Alex and his family, occasional careful meetings with Dad, professional boundaries with Mom and Melissa, weekend trips with James, whose photography business was thriving with a new documentary series on blended families that I was helping design. For the first time in my life, I felt complete. Not because I'd found my real father or because I'd cut ties with toxic family members, but because I'd found the courage to build the life and relationships I deserved. "You know," James said one evening as we worked side by side in my apartment, him editing photos while I designed layouts, "this family documentary project could include your story too, if you wanted." My story? Finding your biological father, rebuilding your concept of family. It's powerful stuff. I considered the idea. Maybe. Once I've fully processed everything. He nodded, understanding as always. No rush, just know the offer's there. As Thanksgiving approached, I made a bold decision. I would host dinner myself, inviting the people who truly supported me, James, Alex and his family, and my father, who had earned a second chance through his genuine remorse and efforts to change. It would be the first holiday where I wasn't trying to fit into someone else's idea of family. Instead, I was creating a new tradition, one built on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine love. The aroma of roasting turkey filled my apartment as I arranged a centerpiece of fall flowers on my dining table. It had been extended to its full length and supplemented with a folding table to accommodate everyone coming to Thanksgiving dinner. James worked alongside me, setting out the wine glasses and helping arrange the mismatched chairs I'd borrowed from neighbors. "Nervous?" he asked, noticing me adjusting the same napkin for the third time. "A little. It's the first time Dad and Alex will meet." "They're both coming for you," James reminded me. "That common ground matters." The past year had been transformative. After discovering my true parentage at Melissa's wedding, I'd gradually built a relationship with Alex Thompson, my biological father. His family had embraced me wholeheartedly, Lisa becoming a supportive maternal figure, Ethan and Abby treating me like the big sister they'd always known about but never met. Simultaneously, I'd established healthier boundaries with my Mitchell family. Dad had made genuine efforts to repair our relationship, owning his role in the decades-long deception and working to earn back my trust. Mom remained distant, unwilling to acknowledge the damage her lies had caused. Melissa vacillated between half-hearted attempts at reconciliation and thinly veiled resentment of my expanded family circle, and James had become far more than the kind stranger who rescued me from pillar purgatory. After months of friendship that deepened into romance, he'd officially moved from supportive friend to partner. His steady presence had been my anchor through the emotional turbulence of the past year. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. "They're early," I said, glancing at the clock. "I'll get it," James offered, squeezing my shoulder reassuringly as he passed. To my surprise, it wasn't Alex or Dad at the door, but Melissa. She stood awkwardly in the hallway, a bakery box in her hands. "I know I wasn't invited," she said before I could speak, "but I was hoping we could talk. Just for a few minutes." James glanced at me questioningly. I nodded, and he tactfully retreated to the kitchen. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. Melissa entered, looking around my apartment with curious eyes. "It's nice. Very you." She held out the box. "Pumpkin pie. I remember, it's your favorite." "Thank you." I accepted the peace offering and placed it on the coffee table. "Why are you here, Melissa?" She perched on the edge of my couch, smoothing her skirt nervously. "Mike left me." "What? When?" "3 weeks ago. Said he couldn't handle the family drama anymore." She laughed bitterly. Apparently, watching me melt down at our wedding was a red flag he chose to ignore. "I'm sorry," I said, genuinely meaning it despite our troubled relationship. "Are you?" She looked up, vulnerability showing through her usual armor. "After how I've treated you, I wouldn't blame you for celebrating." "That's not who I am." I sat across from her. "Despite everything, I don't want you to be unhappy." Melissa's eyes filled with tears. "I need your help, Emma. The divorce is getting ugly. Mike's lawyer is using my behavior at the wedding as evidence of emotional instability. They have statements from guests about how I treated you. So this wasn't about reconciliation after all. It was about needing my help. What exactly are you asking me to do?" I kept my voice neutral. "Just tell them it wasn't as bad as it looked. That we've always had a normal sister relationship with normal disagreements." She wiped at her eyes. "Please, Emma, I know I don't deserve your help, but I don't know who else to turn to." I studied my sister, seeing beyond her usual perfect facade to the frightened woman beneath. "I won't lie for you, Melissa. What you did at the wedding wasn't a normal disagreement. It was deliberate cruelty." Her face crumpled. "I know. I'm sorry. I was horrible to you. Not just at the wedding, but for years." "Why?" I asked the question that had haunted me since childhood. "What did I ever do to make you hate me so much?" "I didn't hate you," she said quietly. "I was jealous. You were always so uniquely yourself, creative, independent, beautiful in a way. I could never be with my boring brown hair and conventional talents. Mom and Dad fought so much about you. About the secret. It was always about Emma." "That wasn't my experience at all," I said, surprised. "From my perspective, you were the golden child, the perfect daughter. Everything I could never be." Melissa looked genuinely startled. "You thought that? But Mom was always stressed about you, worried about you standing out too much, drawing attention. Dad always defended you, said we needed to let you be yourself. It felt like they cared more about protecting you than seeing me." The revelation shifted something in my understanding of our family dynamics. We'd each felt unseen in different ways, casualties of our parents' dysfunction and secrets. "I can't lie about what happened," I repeated firmly, "but I can tell the truth that we were both shaped by family secrets neither of us created. That you've reached out to apologize and attempt reconciliation. That's the most I can offer." She nodded slowly. "That's fair. More than fair, actually." She hesitated. "Do you think we could ever have a real relationship? As sisters?" "I don't know," I answered honestly. "A lot of damage has been done. It would take time, effort, and real change from both of us, but especially from you." "I'd like to try," she said. "The divorce has made me reevaluate a lot of things. I don't want to be the person I was at that wedding. That's a start." I stood as the doorbell rang again. "I have guests arriving for Thanksgiving. You're welcome to stay, but it might be uncomfortable for you. Alex and his family will be here." Melissa's eyes widened. "Your biological father? I should go then." She rose quickly. "This is your family gathering. I wouldn't want to intrude." "They're part of my family now," I corrected gently. Just like Dad is still part of my family, despite everything. Family isn't just about blood or legal ties. It's about who shows up, who respects your boundaries, who loves you for exactly who you are. She absorbed this with a thoughtful expression. I'd like to be that kind of family to you someday, if you'll give me the chance. Small steps, I suggested. Maybe coffee next week? Just the two of us? I'd like that. She moved toward the door. Happy Thanksgiving, Emma. After she left, James emerged from the kitchen. Everything okay? Surprisingly, yes. I explained Melissa's visit and request. It wasn't the apology I'd hoped for, but it was something. Progress rarely happens in dramatic movie moments, he observed. It's usually messy and complicated, just like that conversation. The doorbell rang again, and this time it was Alex, Lisa, Ethan, and Abby, arms full of side dishes and wine bottles. They enveloped me in hugs, the easy affection still new enough to feel miraculous. Ethan had brought his guitar, promising after-dinner music, while Abby immediately volunteered to help finish setting the table. Dad arrived last, visibly nervous but determined. When I introduced him to Alex, the moment crackled with tension before both men shook hands. "Thank you for taking care of Emma all these years," Alex said sincerely. "Thank you for understanding why we made the choices we did, even if they weren't always right," Dad replied. The dinner that followed was unlike any family gathering I'd ever experienced. There were awkward moments, certainly, but also genuine laughter, honest conversations, and a palpable sense of people trying their best to create something new and healthy. After dessert, as we all relaxed with coffee and wine, Dad raised his glass. "I want to propose a toast to Emma, who had the courage to seek the truth and the wisdom to build something beautiful from it. I failed you in many ways, sweetheart, but I've never been prouder of the woman you've become." Alex raised his glass as well. "To second chances and new beginnings. And to chosen family," James added, his eyes meeting mine with warmth that suggested deeper meaning. Later, as we cleared dishes together, James pulled a small box from his pocket. I was going to wait for a more private moment, but somehow this feels right. He opened it to reveal a simple, elegant engagement ring. "Emma Mitchell, will you marry me?" Joy bubbled up inside me. "Yes," I answered without hesitation. When we announced our engagement to the gathered family, the celebration was immediate and enthusiastic. Dad and Alex both gave James handshakes that turned into hugs, while Lisa wiped away happy tears. "You know," Abby said thoughtfully, "this whole story started with you being hidden behind a pillar at a wedding, and now you're planning your own wedding where you'll be the center of attention." Her observation struck me profoundly. The pillar that was meant to hide me had instead set in motion events that brought me fully into the light. The stranger who took my hand had become the man who would stand beside me for life. The family rejection that should have broken me had instead freed me to build something stronger and truer. Sometimes life's cruelest moments can lead to our greatest blessings. That awful seat behind a pillar led me to discover my true origins, find my biological family, strengthen my relationship with my father, establish healthy boundaries with my mother and sister, and meet the love of my life. It's amazing how the universe works. I hope my story resonates with some of you who might be struggling with family challenges or discovering hard truths about your past. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's that authenticity is worth fighting for, even when it's painful. Have you experienced a family revelation that changed everything? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If you found value in my journey, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for being part of my extended family here. Remember that sometimes the people who try to diminish your light are actually pointing you toward your brightest future. I'm sending love and strength to each of you on your own family journeys.